Hello everyone, I welcome you to the session which is based on social emotional learning. My name is Janish Kumar Pandey and I am here at Sharon's Public School. In the field of education, it has been traditionally assumed that students should leave their feelings at the door. If they are serious about their study, if they want to secure good marks and if they want to be successful, they need to leave their feelings at their doorstep. Academic and social emotional issues are considered to be separate. It means it has been believed that things that are related to emotion, things that are related to their mental condition, that should be left at their doorstep only. When a student enters to the school, his sole aim and sole objective should be to study and read only. And anything that doesn't directly relate to students' academic performance must be dealt with outside the classroom. However, modern research, along with the personal experience of many students and teachers, has indicated that working through social emotional issues productively within a specific curriculum has very positive outcomes for students. It means if these kind of things, if works on social emotional things have been done in school or through academic processes, it has given very good results. Schools have begun embracing social emotional learning. Examples of well-rounded lessons as well as testaments to their success can be found in educational curriculum throughout the US, in academic journals like the American Journal of Psychiatry and even the TED Talks nowadays. There these things also being discussed. People are also discussing upon social emotional learning. They are discussing that school must not be the place only for the purpose of inculcating or providing a lot of facts and figures to the students. In fact, social and emotional learning should also be provided to the students. Now, before proceeding to some other aspects, first of all, we need to know what social emotional learning is all about, which is now from now on we will call it SEL in short format. So SEL or social emotional learning is a process wherein individuals learn to acquire the tools, knowledge, and skills sets so that they can. It means social emotional learning is a process or is a practice in which a person or student learn to following things. What are the things? Now I am telling you. The first one is to understand and manage their emotions. It is very important for an individual to understand and manage his or her emotion. This is one thing which plays a very significant role not only in a student's life but in everyone's life. Second one is to set and achieve positive goals. To set a goal, this is something that is done by everyone. But to achieve that goal is something that is totally different and totally different ballgame. If one is setting a goal, then you need to work in the same direction. Its planning should be correct. The execution area should be done appropriately. Only then one can achieve his goals. So, social emotional learning enables a person to set a proper goal and accordingly he can work so that he could achieve it. The third point is feel and show empathy for others. So, the basic thing or basic objective of education is to make or to become a good human being. If we do not have sympathy or empathy for someone else, if we are rude in our behavior, if we are not kind enough while interacting with others, so I don't think there is any meaning in education. This social emotional learning enables someone and it helps a student to feel and show empathy for others. The next thing is establish and maintain positive relationship. This is something that should be taught to everyone. Nowadays we can see that because of all the persons of the family are busy in different things. People are not unable to give time to their child, and that's why newborn babies and or the toddlers or even the students who now started to go school, they do not understand the relations. They don't feel themselves close to their family. So it is the responsibility of schools. It is the responsibility of our learning system to make them understand about how to establish and maintain positive relationship. And last but not the least, it is make responsible decisions. Decision making has always been critical for any person. While moving ahead in our life, we may come at many junctures where we have to take a proper decision, and there are a lot of options, and where we can feel confused. This tool or this process of social emotional learning enables us to take or make responsible decisions. Now, what are the benefits of social emotional learning? Earlier we have discussed what social emotional learning is. Now we will know about benefits of social emotional learning. What are the benefits? What are the advantages if this process is being used with a student, or if we are going through it? A social emotional learning approach helps students process and integrate their social and emotional skills in school. Not only in school, it is handy at home, also it is handy everywhere, but for right now we are talking about school. According to research, or according to some research, social emotional learning offers following benefits. There are some benefits which is provided by or given by social emotional learning. The first one is academic success. The main objective, guardian or parents talk about this. For academic success, developing stronger social emotional skills improves the academic performance of students. In a 2014 media or meta-analysis, ACL was shown to raise students' achievement score by an average of 11%. To the soft skill that students develop through social emotional learning are shown to improve their attitude towards the school, and as a result increase their performance in the classroom. When a student knows that his or her feeling is being heard or it is being respected, then it will be easier for him or her to relax and focus at school or to focus at their studies. And this will enable him to learn or understand the things which are the basics of education and which are the basics of study. The second is social emotional learning also helps in reducing the behavioral problems. We might come to know about a lot of students who may not appear normal. Normal doesn't mean that they are having some problem. They might have some behavioral problems. So those who go through this social emotional learning, they will have fewer behavioral problems. Students engaged in social educational learning are less aggressive and disruptive in school. Those students who goes through this social emotional learning, it has been believed that they are not as aggressive as normally we see in our classes. They are also not disruptive. Many times we see that a lot of students are there who are aggressive. They are aggressive towards other students or their peers. They keep threatening them. They also disturb the class. But this is a tool. This is a process of social emotional learning, which helps them to improve their behavior. Studies have shown these benefits for long term, as social emotional learning students still have 10% fewer psychological, behavioral or substance abuse problems when they reach at the age of 25. It means if a student has gone through SEL or social emotional learning, that it has been seen that by the age of 25 years, social behavior problems has not been taken place. At least he has got 10% less problems if we compare it to a normal person. For example, if a student can learn to find his or her voice and express anger appropriately, it could prevent him or her from acting inappropriately and damaging relationship. Nowadays, we can see that at various places, and there are many courses or people who go to counseling centers to learn anger management. This anger management is nothing but it is a kind of behavioral problem. If a person knows how to manage his anger, if he knows that in a particular situation he is angry, and how should he behave at that particular time, then he could not damage his surroundings, he could not affect things negatively. This social emotional learning teaches him how to take care when he is angry. This will enable him not to damage relationship. This will keep relationships intact and he will behave appropriately at that time, even if he is angry. The third benefit of social emotional learning is less emotional distress. Emotional distress is leading towards different kind of problems like depression, anxiety, stress, and social withdrawal, as evidenced by measures like the Children's Manifest Anxiety Scale. We can see a lot of students who, for some reason, they feel depressed if they have not secured good marks, if they are not successful in their exams, if some teacher or if some incident had taken place at a school, they might feel anxious, they might be in stress, which could result in some disease or discomfort. This social emotional learning helps them to take care of it, to overcome on these kind of situations. Research suggests that social emotional learning programs actually affect central executive cognitive functions, which improves students' inhibitory control, planning, and ability to switch attention from one task to another. It means in a school hour, in entire day, teachers are supposed to have, a student is supposed to read a lot of subjects, starting from math, science, social science, English, etc. They have to read a lot of subjects. And many times we see that students feel bored. They do not generally enjoy all the classes. This social emotional learning enables them to switch from one subject to other or from one task to other task. Essentially, as students practice the new behavior that they learn in SEL programs, they develop stronger self-regulation skills. This leads to regulate themselves. They can develop their skills, they can work upon them, and also they could make it stronger. The next benefit of social emotional learning is positive social behavior. Everything believes in our mentality, how we think. It has been said that if we think we can, we can. But if we think we cannot, we are absolutely right. Thinking positive is the core of anything. If you think positive, it has been said that as you will think, the same you will become. So thinking positive is very important. Students get along better with others as reported by fellow students, teachers, parents, and independent observers. Social interaction skills and self-knowledge essential for students to develop and maintain positive, productive relationships with peers. It's very important for students to behave positively with their friends, with their peers. This SEL make them understand the value of the thing, that how should they behave with their friends and the other students who are reading with them. Parents and teachers are the hallmark of SEL. It is very essential for or important for parents and the teachers to take care how students are behaving, they must mold them to behave positively. If they are taking something in negative sense, it is our job, it is the job of their parents and teachers to make them aware how to look at the bright side of something. Close student-teacher relationship definitely makes student want to perform better. If a student is connected to his teacher, if he is well connected to his teacher, if he feels comfortable to raise questions or ask the doubts, then the chances of getting better result increases. Social emotional learning outcome comes missing quite straightforward or even intuitive. However, they actually need to be learned, mostly through observation, experience, and direct guidance. Not everyone has the opportunity to learn such concepts at home. And for those that do, these cognitive and behavioral developments are not reinforced in most public learning settings. And as the push for more standardized testing becomes the norm, healthy social and emotional development processes are squeezed out of classroom and curriculum. That's why social emotional learning is a process, and therefore it requires time, patience, and especially educators that are committed to providing a safe and caring learning environment to improve the behavior of the student. If we want to make student emotionally strong, emotionally behave properly, then we need to be patient. These kind of things take time, and if you want these kind of results in a hurry, that's not possible. Now, we will discuss about supporting the social emotional needs of high ability students. In a classroom, we may see that not all students have the same level. Few students are having high ability, few students are not able that much. So here we will read about or we discuss about supporting the social emotional needs of high ability students. High ability students may have different social emotional needs from their peers. In the classroom, there are different students who have different kind of IQs, different level of understandings, and where high ability students who grab things very quickly, they need different kind of social emotional things from their peers. Students need to know how they can support their social emotional learning. They also need to know how to self-regulate their emotions. Teachers can help students to do this. Those who are students who are a bit intelligent or high ability students, teachers could play an important role to make them understand how to behave and how to regulate their emotions. The strategies to support the social emotional needs of high ability students. What kind of strategies should be taken care of or should be used if we want to regulate or if we want to inculcate values in high ability students. Not all high ability students will present with the same social emotional needs. Some high ability students will need little help, whereas others will need extensive support. This is quite obvious. Every student may not have same kind of understanding of society. It depends upon the surroundings where he lives. It depends upon the persons he meets every day. So there might be some students who will need just few help, just a little help, and then they will be able to control their anger. They will know how to behave in the society. But there might be a lot of students upon whom we need to work hard, where we need to make them understand and to be patient. Peer relationship, how to behave with the friend student is known as peer relationship. How a student, or especially right now we are talking about high ability students, how they behave with their friends is known as peer relationship. Research says that when high ability students are asked what they most want, the answer is often or generally friend. When high ability students are asked what they want, they say that they need a friend. Relationship with peers are one of the biggest challenges faced by high ability students. Those who are high ability students, they need to have a true friend who can share, with whom he can share his emotions, his feelings, his plannings, and that's why maximum time whenever these kind of questions are asked to high ability students, they reply that they just need a friend. Many high ability students have interests that are more like those of older students. Those who are high ability students, their likes, their choices are a bit mature. We say mature because they like the things which are liked by the older students. They can prefer older companions. Their peers might be younger to them. They feel that their peers who do not have that kind of ability are immature, and that's why they look for some older companions who could understand their emotions. Sometimes high ability students prefer the companionship of a teacher in their peers. Many times it has been seen, not many times, but sometimes it has been seen that there are sort of students who like to be friends with teachers because they understand or consider their teacher to be mature enough. High ability students may also prefer to have one or two close friends. This is instead of having a large friendship group. Students with high ability status or a better mental status, better IQ, they do not used to have a lot of friends. They believe in having only one or two friends rather than having a large friendship group. High ability students often have different expectations of friendship from their peers. For them, friendship, the value of friendship, the meaning of friendship also varies. They expect something special from their fellow students. This can lead to confusion when the high ability student pairs with friends who do not share the same expectation, and that's why a kind of confusion is created among those students. High ability students expect something else from their colleagues, not colleagues, their fellow students. While students who do not have high ability, they are unable to fulfill their demands or their expectations. Teachers need to foster meaningful relationship for their high ability students, and here the importance of teachers becomes quite significant. They need to take care of those kind of students who are having high ability. They need to make him understand, they need to inculcate values where those high ability students could understand that whatever they are looking for from the group, it's not possible to get. So they need to understand that this is also a symbol of maturity, that you have to give regard, you have to respect the feelings of your peers, even if they are not fulfilling or they are not true to your expectations. The next one is perfectionism. Perfectionism is something that everybody, not everybody, but the world strives for it. Many personalities are known to be as perfectionists. There are many examples. But perfectionism can be both healthy and unhealthy. Healthy perfectionism can drive performance. If somebody wants to be perfectionist, he wants to be perfect in everything, certainly he needs to work hard for that. Only then he will be able to achieve whatever he is trying to get. And for that, he had to work hard. He has to work hard. And working hard has the probability of achieving more. Healthy perfectionism can drive performance. For example, There is a musician who strives for perfection, and or the athlete who works at an elite level. Unhealthy perfectionism happens when a student sets very high standards that are next to impossible or that are unreachable. This might result in failure. This might result in heartbreak. This might cause depression, and this can lead to students refusing to try to achieve when they see that they have not or they will not meet the standard they have set. So setting high standards for becoming perfectionist might have negative impact as well. Teachers can support healthy perfectionism and challenge unhealthy perfectionism. Here again, the importance of teacher is there, that they have to make the students understand that what kinds of goal they should set, what perfection is all about. Setting higher goals is good, but it should be reasonable. We cannot set anything, and that's why a teacher should make their students understand that what perfectionism is all about. Some of the signs to look for in unhealthy perfectionism are, what are the signs where we can decode or understand that this kind of signs are indicating towards unhealthy perfectionism, like high level of anxiety. Students who wanted to be perfectionist, but because they have set a very high standards and now they are unable to keep a pace with it, they always seem to be anxious and their anxiety level is quite high. This is a symbol of unhealthy perfectionism. Second is self-criticism. A student or a person who has set very high standards of performance, or if you want to be a perfectionist, then many times it is seen that he is not able to do that, and then he started to criticize himself. Rather than being positive, rather than finding or looking the goodness within him, he starts to criticize himself for everything. This might lead to his own character assassination. He might not feel confident. Self-criticism should be within limitation, but if you want to be perfectionist and he is not able to achieve whatever his standards are, then this might lead to somehow damage his personality. The next is tendency of magnifying imperfections. This is also a symptom or a symbol with the help of which we can understand that some student has set unhealthy perfectionism. He develops a tendency of magnifying imperfections. If he has any kind of shortcomings, if he is not doing something, and if he is lacking in performing 100%, then he started to magnify his limitations. Or magnify limitations is not going to help anybody. It had been shared that everything depends upon point of view. How you see the problem is the size of the problem. If we see a problem as larger, it becomes largest. If we see a problem tiny, it becomes tiny, quite smallest. So that's why unhealthy perfectionism also lead to tendency of magnifying imperfection, and that might result adversely. The next thing that could be noticed for an unhealthy perfectionism is criticism of others. Not only those students criticize themselves, they also started to criticize others. Rather than appreciating the good things in others, he starts to criticize. If he saw or if he see anything short, or not even if he sees something not good, if he See, someone is doing better, still he starts to criticize, and this is not something that should be appreciated. Our parents and our teachers have always said us or taught us that we must appreciate every performance. The next is reluctance to try new things. Reluctance to try new things may stop development. It is something that will stop a student for getting developed his mind, for trying for any new thing. If a student do not try to new things, if he is unknown to innovation, if he is afraid to try new things, then there are chances that he will get saturated very shortly. Trying new things always helps student to get better. But if someone is trying to be a perfectionist, then he will be afraid for trying new things. Next is difficulty in sharing responsibility in group work. Those who consider themselves perfection, or those who try themselves to become a perfectionist, they always believe to work single-handedly or alone. They thought that if they work in group, their performance might happen. Their performance will not be as better as they could do by themselves or by himself only. They say, I rather do it myself. So this will disable to inculcation of team spirit, and team spirit and group work is quite essential if we go to any sphere of the world. Next is feelings of inadequacy. Feeling of inadequacy. Those who try to do perfection. So we have already discussed how perfectionism can be both healthy and unhealthy. We discussed that how this problem create to the students. High ability students should be challenged in their learning when they are young. As we have discussed that there are certain topics which are possessed by high ability students, and they feel themselves uncomfortable while matching to their peers. So we need to challenge them when they are young. High ability students will not develop the necessary skill for learning if things are college age. It's quite understandable that if a student is having higher IQ, then he needs easy to be developed accordingly. If we give them easier tasks, then there will be nothing for him to learn. If we want him to learn, if we want them to learn new things, then we need to set the standard a bit higher. So these skills include risk taking and perseverance. Both of these are needed for healthy perfectionism. If we want to provide some skill, or if we want to raise the bar for the high ability students, we need to take focus on some new things, like they should be introduced to risk taking ability or to perseverance. Both of these are needed for healthy perfectionism. When students are not challenged, they may become fixated on grades or results. Their only focus will be to score marks and to secure better grades. But this will not let them become a better human being, or they will not become a better student. Problems can occur as the demands of learning increase. These things are not easier. If demand for learning is increasing, then there might be some problems. The high ability student may not have the skill. They need to achieve high results. The high ability student may then choose not to try rather than achieve a lower grade. And this is something that should not be appreciated. To encourage healthy perfectionism, what should be done by teachers are few things. First is to provide challenging and vigorous learning experiences. If high ability students are given the required environment, then definitely it will add value to their personality. If they have been provided challenging and rigorous learning experiences, then they definitely will excel. Support students to set realistic goals. This is something upon which all the teachers need to work. Not only teachers, even the parents, the guardians, who always drink the bar, who always set challenges and aims or goals for their child. They do not think what is achievable or what is not realistic. While setting a goal, we should be a bit resistant. We must look how our students' thinking is, how he is performing, what his interest is, and accordingly, a realistic goal should be set. Otherwise, this might result in not only in failure, this could create depression and other effects on the student or on the child. The next thing is, which should be taken care of, is providing feedback on effort and process. This is something very important, one more thing that is quite important. Many times it has been seen that students are not being appreciated on their efforts and process. Only people ask for marks or grades. They ask how many marks have you secured in examination, what grade have you got, and this somehow do not encourage the student. If they are unable to secure good percentage of marks, if they are unable to secure good grade, then they feel that something wrong has been happened with them. Rather than appreciating the students for their total marks or total percentage, we must give positive feedbacks to their efforts and to the process through which they are doing their works. Next is model positive self-talk. Model positive self-talk is talking in such a way that students can feel themselves positive. If we let them hear positive stories, if we let them read things in which certain examples are given where people have learned from their mistakes and failures and then they have excelled in their life, these kind of storage and things definitely add value to their personality. Next is model and encourage a growth mindset. Growth mindset means when students' thinking abilities getting better and better every day. If a student is securing good marks in examination, but a mindset is not something that makes him a good human being, that kind of education, I don't think will have much value. Therefore, their mindset should grow, where they could think about society, where they could think about the people they are living with. Now, the next thing that we will discuss is asynchronous development. Asynchronous development, we will discuss this thing. Asynchronous development means a gap which exists between different parts of the student. For high ability students, this means a gap between intellectual development and their physical or social emotional development. When things are synchronized, it goes simultaneously or it appears similar. But when things are not synchronized, when things are asynchronous, then there appears a gap. There appears a kind of difference. So if you talk about asynchronous development in students, or especially in high level or high ability students, then we find that in the different parts of the country, the development is not the same. Especially intellectual development and their physical and or social emotional development. This gap can cause difficulties for some high high ability students. For example, a student may be able to work with abstract concepts, yet they may not have the emotional ability to cope with their work. This is a very important thing that we should acknowledge of. Abstract idea means there might be certain situations where students will be doing works which are related to some abstract ideas, some feelings like failure, sadness. But when these kind of situation comes in their life, then they are able to cope with it. It means as far as dealing with things in their academics is concerned, they are performing well, they are doing well, like showing something, like making a painting which appears flat, like writing a story or writing an essay where a student or a person is getting inspired after getting felt many times. They might write a very good story, they might write a good poem, they might portray a very good painting. But when it comes in their real life, they are able to cope. It means this is creating a gap. Teachers can support high ability students. How? First, knowing their level of intellectuality. It is very important for teachers to know how developed intellectually a student is. If the teacher is unaware what kind of level the students are possessing or having, then he won't be able to make the students understand a lot of things. We might be using some kind of language which could be not understandable by the students because their intellectual level is not as complete. If the teacher knows this, that each students are having a certain level of intellectual, then its the way of explanation will be according to the student's intellectual level, and that will fetch good results. Next is knowing their level of social emotional development. Social emotional development is a significant part in every student's life because it shows where or in which condition of student is living, where it has been born and brought. Because not every students have the same kind of society where they are living. There might be students who are financially quite strong, from a very good family, but they might not have the cordial relationship with their parents. Their parents might be busy doing some work, especially if you talk about in the whole country. You can see that nowadays father and mother, both the guardian are becoming working class. So somehow they are able to give time to their child. So it might affect emotionally to the student or to the child. So knowing the socio-emotional development of a student is very important for the teachers, and if the teacher has this kind of information, then he will be able to make the student understand quite easily or in appropriate way. Knowing their level of physical development, not only social emotional development, but the physical development is also important. It depends what kind of food he is taking, in which kind of environment he is living, what kind of games he is playing, whether he is doing exercise or not. Because if we are talking about development of student, then we need all round development, not only mental, we need physical development also. If a student is not physically fit, then in spite of reading the entire year, reading for entire year, he has prepared every subject superbly, but when the exam is about to take place, he falls ill. What will happen then? He will not be able to give the examination. Or plus, if the student is quite intellectual, but his physical development is not as per need or what is required, then definitely it won't let it prosper or it won't let it move ahead. Providing experiences for the different levels of development. When students are coping with different kinds of situations, especially, for example, we can say a student is not having certain kind of social support from his family or the environment he is living in. It is the need of the teachers or their friends to make him feel comfortable or to make him know what society is, what is done in a family, how he should behave with the other person to whom he meets in his life. And this could be done with our own experience, how our parents have behaved with certain situations. So here the experience of teachers can help the students. Next is providing opportunities for high ability students to show higher level of thinking and learning. All these things that we have discussed here. Apart from this thing, we need to create chances, we need to create opportunities where students have an opportunity where they need to think out of the box, where they need to have high level thinking. For that, we need to do some tasks where high thinking is required. Otherwise, a high ability student can do this work very easily. That will be walking the park for him. And this will not add anything in his personality. So it is very important for all the teachers or the person who are teaching them to create some special works where they need to think high. Teachers should remove any barriers that might exist to student learning. For example, a younger student may be able to create a long narrative, yet they may not have the handwriting or typing skills to produce the text, or providing a style may help them. This is absolutely right. If a student is not performing equally good in all the spheres of life that he is earning, then he doesn't have chance to excel. Like, if a student is a good speaker, he knows everything, he has read the subject quite easily or well, but he is unable to write to do that. Then you must not scold him or and feel him insecure because his handwriting is not good. Rather than our thought process should be positive. We must tell or let him know that he has certain knowledge. He is learning well, he is speaking well, and if somehow he is unable to write better, then he needs to practice more. Or he should be provided some other stuff or some styles which will replace his handwriting. Next thing that we will discuss is post-secondary planning. Post-secondary planning. Some high-ability students will have difficulty with planning for life after school. They might be performing better in their school, they might be having higher thinking abilities, but these are not the only things which is required in life. They might be not as competent in their life after school. These students are likely to excel across two or more areas. Some characteristics of these students, what kind of symptoms or characteristics these students are having. The first one is difficulty with decision making. Although decision making is something where almost everyone feel problems, but high ability students are quite prone to making mistakes while they are having a decision making problem. They might be confused to be with whom or to leave whom. They might be confused to choose which kind of profession they should go with. So there should be a way of planning. difficulty with follow through. After doing a work, how they have to behave, how they have to settle themselves, this might also be a problem for the high ability students. That should also be taken care with the help of secondary plan. Next is excellent performance in many subject areas. These are the characteristics which students have. They have excellent performance in all the subjects. Many hobbies and extracurricular activities they also do. High ability students have many hobbies. They like to read books. They like to participate in play. Many of them like to explore the universe. It has been seen that students who are doing great in science, they write poems. They might be a musician, they might be a player of guitar. So they have many kind of hobbies and they are quite familiar when it comes to participate in extracurricular activities. They don't have free time. This is one more thing, one more characteristics which shows, which appear in high ability students. They don't have free time. Why? Because they indulge themselves in some activities. They do not consider sitting idly or quietly is something that should do. That's why they do not have free time. They have very little free time. Leadership role in variety of groups. This is often seen in students who have high ability. They have leadership qualities. First, if they are performing well, if their thinking level is high, certainly they will perform well. And when they are performing well, when they are selected by the teachers or whoever they are with, people select them to lead. Like if a group of students is there in the class, where a high ability student has a very good communication skill, he is participating in various activities. Then the teachers normally they select that student to lead some kind of speech or to help the assembly, or if it comes to perform on stage. These kinds of students become leaders. They have leadership qualities. Some signs of stress or exhaustion is something that they also possess because of a lot of things they take care of, because they don't have much time to indulge themselves in entertaining things or for the sake of entertainment, or the fear of failure. We cannot say failure, but the fear of not doing everything with perfection may cause them stress or exhaustion. Stress will be when they are not able to perform according to their goal, according to their level, or exhaustion will take place when they are working too much, when they are working too hard and not taking rest appropriately. One more characteristic is there, that is difficulty in making post-school decisions. We have discussed this thing earlier, that high ability students often have been seen that once they have completed their academic schools, they find themselves quite confused what kind of subject they should choose, what kind of career option they should go with. To support these students with planning for life in the school, teachers need to help them. How teachers will help them? First, remind them do not have to limit themselves to one career. In the age we are living nowadays, or the kind of education that is provided in India, many students have to cope with this kind of situation. They go for a single target. If they are able to achieve that, then it's okay. But if they are unable to achieve that, then they lack the required skill where they could get settled in some other department or other sphere of life, which cause unemployment, which cause depression, which cause a lot of problems. So, a teacher should remind the student to not to limit himself to one career. There should be more career options given to the students or made them understand that if somehow he is unable to get what he has planned, certain kinds of skill will enable him perform some other works which let him earn or let him live happily. Second thing is to remind students that leisure activities can help develop interest outside of their career. Whenever students are having leisure time and thinks that they are doing leisure just for the sake of passing the time, that time also be passed or enjoyed in such a way where they could learn something. Means entertainment with learning something which will add special quality in their personality or yield some result in future. Next thing that a teacher or teacher should tell the students or help them is provide opportunities for discussing with like ability. This can help students realize that they are not alone in their concern. This is something that's quite noticeable. Certain kinds of people feel themselves alone when they are in problem. But if they meet same kind of students, then they feel safer. They discuss their ideas. When they come to know that these kind of problems are not only with them, there are other people also in the world who are having these kind of problems. So sharing their problems and how to outcome will definitely help them. Therefore, teachers need to provide like ability youth, where students could discuss what to do, how to come out of the problem, from the problem. Other factors may also lead to difficulties with making post-school decisions. These include perfectionism and cultural influences. We have already discussed about perfectionism, how perfectionism is good and bad, both. Second thing that put pressure or that confuse or put difficulty to student is cultural influence. In which kind of cultural background is living. This also somewhat not only disturbs, it also helps. But in many times or certain places we can see that people who belong to different cultures, they feel themselves uncomfortable while having some decision or while making certain decisions. The forced choice dilemma. What is the forced choice dilemma? It refers to a choice some high ability students will face. High ability students have to face forced choice dilemma. This choice, what this choice is, it is between a need for peer acceptance and the desire for high academics. When they have to decide something, they ask their friends, they ask the people they are living with, whether they should go with this thing or not, whether they should go with X or not, with Y or not. But their colleagues, not colleagues, with their peers, their friends, if they are agreeing with him, then everything is okay. But many times they see that their peers do not accept it. Or one more thing is there, their desire for high academic goals. What kind of goals they are setting? According to the goals that they have set, they are totally confused. They face kind of dilemma of what to do and what not to do, what to leave. Second thing is begins when students compare themselves with peers. Comparison in a positive way is good. Although it has been said two persons can't be same, still this is a quality, this is a characteristic which is inevitable in human being. A human can compare himself from others. This also creates problems, this also creates a kind of problem in decision making when the students compare themselves to their peers. They might be intimidated, they might take things easily if they are watching or they are seeing that their peer students or their friends are doing something. They might try to copy them certain things which they can't do. They might not do something which they could do, but they have already seen that somebody has not got appropriate. So these kind of things also poses problem while having decision making. Wasn't in the teenage years when fitting in can become more important than achieving. These problems generally becomes quite worse when they are in teenage years. And when they start to achieve something, when they start to get successful, then only these kind of things get overlooked. This can lead the high ability student to mere mask their abilities. And if these problems are not got solved, then what will they do? They will not let their abilities come forward. They won't express themselves clearly. Many abilities of them could not be public. And that's why masking may be more pronounced in small communities, in some cultural groups, amongst boys. Teachers can support students grappling with the forced choice dilemma. Why or how? By fostering meaningful friendship and like ability interactions, by providing challenging learning experiences through differentiation, providing students with access to mentors in area of interest. Nowadays, these things are available very easily in this revolutionary age. With the help of internet, students are able to contact or to connect with the people who are somehow mentors in their respective groups. So these kind of things only will help. The next thing that we will discuss is metacognition. Next thing is metacognition. Metacognitive strategies teach students to think about their thinking. This is very important thing where we should emphasize how students are thinking. This helps them to become aware of learning process. With the help of these things, they will know how and why they are reading. With this knowledge, students can gain control over their learning. Metacognition is also important for self-regulation. What should be done, what not should be done. It helps students to manage their motivation for learning. Metacognitive activities can include, there are certain activities that could be included in metacognition, like planning how to approach learning task. First of all, they need to plan how and when a task should be done. If everything is planned, then they need to act accordingly, evaluating the progress. This is very important. While we are implementing a plan, while we are acting, we need to evaluate time to time. Time to time, if we keep evaluating, then we would know what kind of things have we achieved and what we are missing. So these are certain things we need to take care of. I hope the session was handy. It will help you. Thanks for listening.